Attention! Startup preparations have been completed and the reactor is ready for ignition. All personnel within the reactor chamber are to vacate at this time. Reactor ignition in T-20 seconds. Chamber evacuation is now mandatory. Startup preparations have been completed and the reactor is ready for ignition. All personnel within the reactor chamber are to vacate at this time. Reactor ignition in T-minus 20 seconds. Chamber evacuation is now mandatory.
Thank you.